free agents part 2. All right, we are going to be giving away a Brandon, oh, that's upside down, Brandon Ayuk jersey. All you have to do is be a subscriber, and you have a chance to win. Right now, it's a 1 out of 390 chance to win. But you have a chance to win. So, this is Dynasty Football Dads. Hit the intro.
Now turn up.
All right, what up? We are doing the free agents part 2. We're going to do part 3 too, but we are just going to lump the wide receivers into part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, it was like a week ago. I don't know. You can find it. You guys know how to work YouTube. Anyways, we're going to be going through Corey Davis. That he wasn't signed until after my free agents parts 1. I also did a winners of part 1. But this is Corey Davis. 3 years, $37.5 million with the Jets. Last year, and I feel like he's been very, I guess, undervalued. Because if we look at his ADP, his ADP is 46. Last year, just think in your head, just guess. What if you were to guess what his ADP would, or if you guess what his fantasy finish was last year, what would you think? It feels like it wasn't great. And there was a couple games where he had 0 catches, and I think that hurts his value. He ultimately only played 14 games. Does that give you a hint of where he was at? His fantasy finish was 30, which, I mean, ultimately that you're talking about a mid-wide receiver 3. I think he's a very valuable part of a contending team because ultimately he's that guy that can fill in some of these weeks. Is he going to be a wide receiver 1? I don't think so. Is he going to be a high wide receiver 2? No, but can he be a low wide receiver 3 in the Jets offense? I do think that. I think he can be a mid-20s wide receiver, and at being a fantasy finish of 30 last year, I think that is a good value if you're going to be getting him at wide receiver 46. He's also only 26 years old. We've seen what happens to wide receivers when they start getting into this age. They start to find themselves. Corey Davis has some of the greatest talent from a collegiate perspective transforming into the NFL. It has not worked at Tennessee. But you know what? Maybe Tennessee wasn't the right fit for him. You know what? I do have some slight doubts that, you know what, Corey Davis just maybe he's slightly a bust when it comes to the NFL world. But I mean, you look at almost 1,000 yards in 14 games. Like, that's a decent amount for a Tennessee offense that ran through Derrick Henry, that ran through A.J. Brown. Ultimately, they didn't run it through Corey Davis, but he had a couple flashes of like, whoa, that was really good. I think the Jets, he can be the alpha, and Denzel Mims can be right there with him as he develops and becomes the wide receiver. But 3 years, $37.5 million, so you're talking about they're putting money where their mouth is. And so that's where I think Corey Davis could be definitely a good buy at this point. So if you don't have Corey Davis, it might be a good time to buy him right now. Or you can just wait until after the draft season, and I think all the rookie hype will hit, and then boom. This is where you can start drafting or picking up some of these free agents. All right, my another one is Marvin Jones. He had a 2-year, $12.5 million, so not as much as Corey Davis. We're only talking about $6.25 million here. But he went to the Jags. The Jags is, of course, a great landing spot because they got Mr. Trevor Lawrence coming in. Actually, his name is William, so I don't know why people are calling him Trevor. I'm going to start calling him William Lawrence. That's his actual real name. So Will Lawrence, he's got Willie Lawrence for them. So 76 catches for 978 yards and 9 touchdowns. Again, Marvin Touchdown. I guess that's his new nickname, Marvin Touchdown. Marvin Jones is a touchdown machine, and usually it all comes in like 2-3 games. So if you want to play the roller coaster game of Marvin Jones, which is he will get you 3 touchdowns probably once or twice a year. And I don't know if the Jags play the Vikings in 2021, but that would be a good spot to look at that 3 touchdowns because he's done that a couple times, I feel like, against the Vikings. But anyways, he's age 31, so he is ADP of wide receiver 58. I still think that's too low for him even. I think he should be up a little bit higher than that. We're talking, you got to at least put him in the 40s. I mean, come on now. Like, that's just way too low. He's still 31, but he is getting towards the end of it. I think that you have a good 2-year window where Trevor Lawrence can definitely spread the ball around and make Marvin Jones a good 950-yard and 8 touchdown, which he's not going to finish his fantasy finish at 15, but he can finish at like 25, 30, but just be a roller coaster to get there. And so that is going to be the roller coaster you have to ride, and I don't know if you want to be a part of that, but maybe you do. I don't know. Anyways, Kenny Golladay is the next one. 4 years, $72 million. So we're talking big money. We're talking $18 million a year. That is, the New York Giants paid up a ton for him. I have mixed emotions on this one. This is of course like 2 days after he signed. This other people, the Kenny Golladay owners are just like, well, at least he didn't sign with the Ravens. At least he didn't sign with the Patriots. I understand that. But, I mean, the Giants are not in an amazing spot. But in 5 games, he had 338 yards and 2 touchdowns, which, let's just kind of erase last year. But 2019, he was fantasy finish of 3. That is an awesome fantasy finish. But he had 65 catches for 1,190 yards and 11 touchdowns. I don't see that happening as a Giants. I don't think the Giants can produce 11 touchdowns on a single wide receiver unless you are talking about very little Darius Slayton and very little Sterling Shepard. Yeah. So, I mean, we're talking about, I mean, I don't like it. It just is, Kenny Golladay as last year, I mean, he was like a wide receiver, like 10 for me. He just keeps slowly knocking down, but I mean, I would say his ADP is 19. I would put him at like 15. He is behind likes of Mike Evans, Cooper, and Allen. What would you rather have? Honestly, just comment. What would you rather have? Mike Evans, Cooper, Allen, and Golladay. Put it in that order. For me right now, if I were to just say right now, I think it would go Allen first. I mean, honestly, Keenan Allen's been amazing. And then Kenny Golladay, and then I think it would be Evans and Cooper. That would be my order. But man, Dak's coming back too. Okay, anyways, we're have to call it down. But yeah, so Kenny Golladay, right around, I think wide receiver 15 would be a good spot for him. We got 2 more wide receivers left, 2 more. All right, so Will Fuller, 1 year, $10 million contract in Miami. And right now, he is being ADP'd at 34, which I think is, it's kind of consensus right now that all these wide receivers are right now ADP kind of low. He's age 27 and April 16th, so happy birthday here in about a month. But he's behind like Tyler Boyd and OBJ, which, I mean, those two, I mean, OBJ, we need to drop him further. But and then Juju Smith-Schuster, which is gonna be the next guy in the free agency that we're gonna see. But if I would really honestly look at Juju and Will Fuller, I would rather have Will Fuller because he has the higher upside. Juju does not, with Claypool and Deontay Johnson. Spoiler alert, he went to the Steelers if you didn't know, which you should know by this point. But anyways, Will Fuller, 11 games, 53 catches, 878 yards, and 8 touchdowns. And we were talking like 1,200, 1,300 yards and 12 touchdown pace. Like, that's crazy pace. And in Miami, I think that Tua is not going to be able to get him to that point. He's not going to be Deshaun Watson. He's not going to be able to get him to 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns, 12 touchdowns. But I could see Will Fuller be like 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, and we go, no, that was a good year for Will Fuller. And Will Fuller, all he needs to do is 2 things. 1, stay healthy. 2, stay off the PEDs. Those are 2 big ifs, especially for Will Fuller and his injuries. Man, his hamstrings are like made of sad, silly string. But anyways, those 2 things, if those 2 things happen, he can be a wonderful wide receiver, and he's always shown that. He just is always hurt, and now with the PEDs, that's a problem. And also, he's suspended for, again, I didn't even look up, probably, I think, 2 more games? I think it's 2 more games. Anyways, that's our issue there. Last one, Juju Smith-Schuster. So he is still 24 years old. Man, he feels like he's like 27 years old. But he's 24 years old. His ADP was wide receiver 24. He's the only one that I would say goes down in this situation. I wanted to see him as a really good secondary option in an offense like a Jags or like Kansas City or somewhere. Or I think the Ravens even offered him money. The Ravens and Chiefs were 2 big options. But he goes back to Pittsburgh where he's stuck in with Deontay and Claypool. I don't know. I don't understand it. But 1 year, $8 million contract. If this is the time that if somebody goes, oh, I love the Pittsburgh situation, that's where you sell them to that owner because 97 catches, 831 yards, 9 touchdowns, fantasy finish of 23. I think Claypool's going to get more involved. I think Deontay's going to stay involved. I understand that Deontay gets all those drops and stuff like that, but I still really like Deontay Johnson as a whole. So I think when you're looking at Juju Smith-Schuster, I think you're gonna have to move him down, move him on down. All right. So I hope you liked this video, and if you made it this far, congratulations. You're awesome. But we have Mr. Brandon Ayuk jersey. If you are a San Francisco fan, this is definitely going to be very, very tempting. We give that away at the end of March. All right. Peace out, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Now turn up.